Europe is full of strange places, but there is one territory that feels like a geographical glitch. Here, you can walk out of Spain, cross an airport runway, and suddenly you find yourself in Britain. This tiny peninsula is smaller than most cities, yet it sits at one of the most strategic locations on the entire planet. So how did this strange territory exist in the first place? And why does this tiny rock still matter to the entire world? Welcome to Gibraltar, the strangest territory of Europe.
We are currently in Spain, more specifically in the city of La Línea de la Concepción, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, but we are about to enter the United Kingdom walking. What you can see in the background, this rock formation that is quite impressive, this is already part of Gibraltar. And Gibraltar is a territory that belongs to the United Kingdom, but it sits in the southern tip of Spain. Behind me you can see a border that is not recognized by Spain as an international and official border. They just call it a fence and nothing more. And actually this border here in this specific spot shouldn't even be existing there. But I will tell you more about this in a little bit. But at first, let's cross the border, or the fence, whatever you may call it, and enter Gibraltar. And we made it to Gibraltar. As you can see, we are already in the UK. There are already visible signs of it here. The passport control was super quick. There was quite a line. I thought it would take some time, but no, it took us like less than 5 minutes, seriously. And I didn't feel like it was a very serious passport control. Everything pretty quick and easy. They are talking about taking away the passport control very soon. I will talk more about that later on, but you can really feel that there's a lot of interest to make this crossing as quick as possible and as easy as possible already now. Gibraltar is one of the smallest countries in the world. It is a tiny territory of more or less 7 square kilometers only, and we are planning to do everything walking today, which can easily be done here. Everything is nearby, and there are so many strange facts about Gibraltar which we are going to talk about today. And we are currently walking towards the very first very strange thing here in Gibraltar, which is its airport. And the airport is located basically right in front of the border. It's one of the first things you will see once you entered Gibraltar. Gibraltar itself is not a very wide country. It's actually less than 2 kilometers wide, and that means there wasn't enough space to build an airport, which is why they actually had to build it partially over the sea. And it also means that they had to build it in a place where actually vehicles and pedestrians need to cross. That means if you want to enter Gibraltar, you always have to cross the airport's runway, which is quite unique on Earth. And we are actually here, coincidentally, at the time where the gates are closed, which means that there is an airplane about to land. Obviously, for safety reasons, they need to close it for vehicles and for pedestrians so that we won't have any accidents here. And I'm actually seeing the plane arriving right now. This is super exciting. I was hoping for this to happen because I really wanted to see it. And I don't believe that there are so many planes landing here, so this is a very fun coincidence. Been so close to an airplane landing, actually. This is the very first time I'm ever crossing a runway walking. It feels so weird, to be honest, and yet so cool at the same time. You can see the airplane, British Airways, there behind us. There was a second one landing, actually, so we saw 2. Such a cool experience, I love it. The only way to get to Gibraltar by airplane, by the way, is from the UK. There are no direct flights from any other location, so you have to be in the UK to enter Gibraltar by plane. The rock of Gibraltar, which is also known as El Peñón in Spanish, is quite dominant and quite visible already from far away. It also divides the territory of Gibraltar, and it's visible from basically everywhere. In order to enter the city center of Gibraltar, you gotta cross this tunnel here. And this tunnel used to be the one and only entrance to Gibraltar, except by sea, of course. And while we are getting closer towards the city center, let me explain to you why the Spanish actually do not recognize the border as an official border, and why Gibraltar is actually a UK territory. Gibraltar became part of the UK in the early 18th century during the War of the Spanish Succession. In 1704, a fleet from the UK and the Dutch Republic captured Gibraltar due to its strategic position and the entrance to the Mediterranean Sea. At that time, the Spanish were busy fighting the war elsewhere, and therefore Gibraltar wasn't very well protected. And then in 1713, the war officially ended by signing the Treaty of Utrecht. That treaty was meant to ensure that Spain wouldn't have too much power over too many territories. In that treaty, it stated that Spain had to give up several territories. For example, Gibraltar and Minorca were given to Great Britain. Other territories were given to Austria. And ever since then, Gibraltar belongs to the United Kingdom. So Spain officially ceded Gibraltar to the United Kingdom. Britain has maintained control over the territory, and it keeps using it as an important naval and military base due to its strategic location and because it is overlooking the Strait of Gibraltar. The Treaty of Utrecht also included a clause that stated that if the UK ever decides to give up Gibraltar or sell it, Spain would be the first country to have the right to reclaim it. And Spain still claims sovereignty over Gibraltar ever since 1713. However, the territory remains a self-governing British territory until today. I'm actually very curious to hear what local people think about all of this, if they truly feel British or if they feel somehow like a mixture of Spanish and British, I don't know. But we will sure ask them later on. To understand the history of Gibraltar a little bit better and also the impact that it has until today on both Spain and the UK, we will actually climb the rock, which is more than 400 meters high, and we need some energy for that. So we are going to enjoy an English breakfast in a little bit, and we are waiting for it currently. And I will use that moment to tell you more about my best travel companion, which helps me to plan, organize, and walk through my trips. And that is WWII. WWII is an eSIM provider that provides you with unlimited mobile data. They offer eSIMs in more than 200 destinations, and they also have 15 regional eSIMs in case you are planning to do a multi-country trip. I'd recommend you to purchase your eSIM before your trip. For that, you'll just search your destination on the WWII webpage or app and enter the amount of days you want to travel there. You can then enter my discount code Aventuralina at checkout to save some extra money. And once you've installed it, you will keep the eSIM deactivated until the moment you land. Once you arrive at your destination, it's only one click to activate your eSIM and you can already enjoy unlimited mobile data. And now, very important for frequent travelers or people who travel a lot for work and digital nomads, WWII now also provides a monthly subscription plan. This means that with one eSIM you can enjoy internet in over 160 destinations worldwide.
And for extra peace of mind, WWII now offers an always-on benefit for free on all of their eSIMs. It gives you 1 GB per month of backup data in over 70 countries, so even between trips, you're never completely without the internet when you need it.
Summer vacation is coming up, and to make your trip smooth, don't forget to use my code Aventuralina to get your discount, or you can also directly click the link in the description below, which will give you the discount applied already. Saving money is always great because this way you can actually enjoy delicious foods abroad, for example, and spend your money elsewhere. I'm going to enjoy my English breakfast now, and then we will continue our tour all the way up to the rock. So we are walking through the city center of Gibraltar. This here is one of the main pedestrian streets with a lot of stores and so on, as you can see in the background. It feels so strange to walk through here. It's just you cross a tiny border and then you literally are in Great Britain. And it also feels British because all of the stores are British. You hear English everywhere. Signs are in British, but also in Spanish, by the way. And then all of the typical British foods that you can see here. But you also notice the blend between the Spanish and the British culture here in Gibraltar. The country in general is quite multilingual. English is the official language of Gibraltar. It is spoken in schools, it is spoken in the media, it is the official language, of course, here of Gibraltar. However, the daily life is extremely multilingual. It is quite normal that people here speak English, but Spanish as well. And there's actually a local language here in Gibraltar as well, which is called Llanito. Llanito is like a Spanglish, a mixture of English and Spanish. Basically, you can hear both English words and Spanish words in the same sentence.
Nos tenemos que dar cuenta que we are trying to aspire to getting into a club, ¿vale? Which we do not belong to.
A very interesting, very strange fact, and a very fun and curious fact, actually. I'm very curious to talk to some people. I want to figure out whether people here really feel British or if they feel like a unique, like they should be a unique country, their own country maybe, or a mixture of British and Spanish as well. We'll figure that out now. I think the location of Gibraltar is very curious and interesting. I was wondering, small, and it's part of the UK. Like, do you guys actually feel British, or
Yes.
yeah, like 100% British?
We are. I am Gibraltarian.
Uh huh.
I am from here. But Amanda, this is Anna Britain.
Uh huh. So you feel,
It's a boss.
and you are, but you also will connect to the culture with Britain and everything. Yeah. Very interesting.
So we speak two languages normally here, Spanish and English.
Uh huh. And also,
I can speak both in one.
I've heard about that. You have like your own language, basically, right?
That's right. And our own food too, you see.
Uh huh. Very interesting.
Yeah.
And do you think life here in Gibraltar is better than in other places of Britain?
Compare the world today? Yes, because everything outside is a mess, you know?
True.
All this and that, and this is a quiet place.
Yeah.
Well, at the moment, I don't know the future.
Of course.
But hopefully, we are 38,000 inhabitants here.
Yeah.
We all live together. You know, different religion, but we all live together fine. So
Okay.
no problem at all. All right?
All right. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you.
My next interviewer surprised me. Somehow I expected everybody here to speak English, but that's not the case.
Ah, qué curioso. Pero no hablas inglés.
No sé explicarme muy bien.
Ah,
Porque
ok.
quería algo
Yo solo quería saber si la gente aquí se siente más español o más británico.
de
porque-
todo, de todo.
De todo.
Inglés, español,
Ajá.
español, de todo hablamos.
¿La cultura es más británico o más español?
Más español.
Más español. Bueno, gracias a ustedes.
ti,
Gracias.
reina. Gracias, que estén bien. Se le olvidó.
Very interesting. I think it always depends on who you ask. That lady here, for example, she didn't speak English, and she says that on the streets you hear a lot of Spanish. Like everybody speaks Spanish. But then the other lady said that obviously everything that is official is in English, like schools, work, and so on. However, people speak Spanish since they are so close to Spain and so connected with it. But they said the culture is more British, but the life on the street is more Spanish, because also a lot of Spanish workers constantly cross the borders and come here to Gibraltar to work here.
British, definitely.
British,
Yes.
100% British.
100% British.
But there is is there a mixture of the culture with Spain
Of
here?
course, because it's next door to us.
Right. Everybody here also speaks Spanish, right?
Bilingual. Yes, bilingual. Obviously, maybe you get to meet some Spanish people from where they're working.
Of course.
They speak only Spanish, you know.
Of
but
course.
the workers, you know, they're
Yeah.
not here, born here.
Yeah.
The people born here, bred here, bilingual.
And they all feel like there was also an election that people would rather like be part of Britain than
Yeah.
of Spain, right?
Definitely.
We are now walking up the rock, and I hope that we will get some great viewpoints to better understand the territory of Gibraltar from up there. And also, once we get up there, I will hopefully get a great view to better explain you why Spain actually does not recognize the border that we've seen before as an official international border. Now look at that, we are walking since just a little bit, and now we already found one of the strangest things of Gibraltar, which are these monkeys here that you can see in the background. These are actually the only wildly living monkeys in Europe. Like, there is no other place in Europe where you can naturally find wild monkeys. Isn't that cool? And here in Gibraltar, specifically on the rock, they live here freely, and they are called macaque. And these monkeys, they are estimated to be more or less 300 of these monkeys here on the rock, and there are several theories about how they actually came here. Some say they were brought here by travelers, others say that they have naturally crossed into Gibraltar from Africa when the two continents were closer together. And then there's also a legend that actually says that once the monkeys disappear from Gibraltar, Gibraltar will be a part of Spain again. So a lot of legends, a lot of stories to tell about these monkeys. They are super cute, and it's literally, obviously, the very first time that I'm seeing monkeys in Europe. That's so cool. The higher we get, the better of an understanding we also get of how much space the rock actually occupies, and that Gibraltar really isn't big. Actually, Gibraltar is one of the most densely populated cities on Earth. There are only a few cities such as Hong Kong or Singapore that are even more densely populated than Gibraltar. It is definitely the most densely populated city of Europe. There are only 33,000 people living here, but since the territory is so tiny, the city has to be so densely populated. From up here we can now see the entire western coast of Gibraltar, and literally most of what we see actually from up here is Spain already. So yeah, the territory is really not big. A lot of people living in a very small space, and therefore it's also kind of understandable that they had to build things like the airport over the water, over the sea, because there is no space here. Now, as mentioned before, Spain doesn't recognize the border of Gibraltar as an official international border crossing. They rather call it La Verja, which is Spanish for the fence. And I'm now going to tell you why that is. It is partially due to long-lasting sovereignty disputes, but also because Gibraltar expanded its territory, and Spain says that was against what was decided in the Treaty of Utrecht. So here behind me, for example, you can now clearly see from above the runway of the airport, and we can clearly see that the runway enters into the water, into the sea. And it's not only the fact that it's actually built over the sea, it is also the fact that the airport is located in an area that has not originally been ceded to Gibraltar in the treaty. So originally the official border was a bit further inside of the city center today, and they ceded basically the city center, the port and the harbor to the British in that treaty. And then later on Gibraltar just expanded its territory a little bit, and Spain obviously wasn't okay with that. They didn't agree on it, they didn't officially ask Spain for permission, and well, that is the reason behind it, the reason why Spain really doesn't agree that this over there, which we can also see in the background, is the official border of Gibraltar. In theory, we would be able to see all the way to Africa from up here. However, it's not a very clear day, so we can't see it. But what we see behind me, the waters behind me, it's a very small passage that is extremely important geopolitically speaking. This is the Strait of Gibraltar, and it is basically the entrance to the Mediterranean Sea. And from up here we can see two continents and two seas. This strait connects the Atlantic Ocean with the Mediterranean Sea. It also connects Europe with Africa and the Middle East. So every ship that needs to enter the Mediterranean will pass the Strait of Gibraltar. And Gibraltar sits on the northern tip of the Strait of Gibraltar. Controlling this territory means controlling the entrance to the Mediterranean Sea. Thousands of ships that are carrying goods, military weapons and oil through the Mediterranean Sea need to pass here every year. And since this year is a UK territory, it means that the UK has a lot of power and a lot of control over this strait. But it's not only that. We can also see that on the tip of the rock there are huge antennas that also help the communication and surveillance system of Great Britain. With these antennas they can control aircraft movements, ship movements, and that is extremely important for the military of the UK. So therefore, being here in Gibraltar, having control over this very tiny territory actually means to have a lot of power over a very important passage.
The Rock of Gibraltar holds many secrets. One of them impacted more recent history and cannot be ignored when visiting the rock.
We are now about to enter the World War II tunnels of Gibraltar. Gibraltar was actually also a very important place, and strategically speaking, during World War II for the UK. This was a very important base here, and this network of tunnels here is more than 50 kilometers long. All of the tunnels inside of the rock, it's crazy. The tunnel system was originally built during the Great Siege already, but they built further tunnels during World War II. Let's get inside and learn a little bit more about the World War II history here of Gibraltar.
The World War II tunnels in Gibraltar transformed the rock into a hidden underground fortress. The tunnel system was massively expanded in the 1940s as Britain prepared for a possible Axis invasion. Engineers carved more than 50 kilometers of passageways through solid limestone, creating a self-contained city with barracks, hospitals, and command centers capable of housing around 16,000 troops. From inside the rock, Allied forces monitored and controlled access between the Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea, making Gibraltar one of the most strategically important strongholds of World War II.
We've heard it before, people here feel British. However, they also feel European, and there was a voting for the Brexit, also here in Gibraltar obviously, and people here voted with 96% against the Brexit. So Gibraltar was actually the region of the UK where most people were completely against it. So they obviously have a very strong and united opinion here. And of course, the Brexit also caused some problems. In this region here, there are thousands of people crossing the border daily because they are either doing trades in between Spain and Gibraltar, or they simply live in Spain but work here in Gibraltar, or vice versa. The Brexit didn't make things easier, and lately there was an agreement in between the European Union, Spain and the UK that will very soon make crossing the border much easier again. So in June 2026, Gibraltar will actually become part of the Schengen area, which means that traveling here will be way easier. The border will be removed and it will be placed at the airport. There will be border controls at the airport and also at the port here in Gibraltar. In this way, they will make trades and also crossing borders so much easier. The goal is to maintain fluidity between Spain and Gibraltar while also protecting one of the most important EU's external frontiers. Now that I understand the history of Gibraltar a bit better and also what the people of Gibraltar think about it, it doesn't really feel that strange anymore that it is actually part of the UK. It's just the location here in Spain and so far away from the rest of the UK that feels a bit strange, to be honest. There has been a vote a few years ago where 99% of the people voted against becoming part of Spain. So 99% of the Gibraltarians want to remain part of Great Britain. And actually Gibraltar itself can never be an independent country because of the Treaty of Utrecht. Because if they would become independent, Spain would have the right to reclaim it first. And that's obviously something Gibraltarians don't want at all. I personally think that the history of Gibraltar shows that quite often the strangest places on earth are the ones that also connect a lot of things.